On the crisp autumn morning of October 15th in Boston, I sat across the antique mahogany table, watching my sister calculate her next move as our futures were being arranged. The weight of déjà vu pressed against my chest as I realized I could hear her thoughts. "I'll take the kind one for myself this time," confirming what I'd suspected. We had both been reborn. The silver teaspoon trembled between my fingers as my sister reached for the gentle man who had abused her in our past life, leaving me with the cold, distant CEO she'd failed to control. I smiled, knowing something she didn't. In this game of matrimonial chess, I could hear every unspoken strategy. This is the story of how second chances reveal our truest selves when the scripts we thought we knew are suddenly rewritten. Subscribe now to discover how hearing thoughts others can't change, not just my fate, but my very identity. I was reborn on the day my sister and I were choosing our husbands, the moment I realized I could hear other people's thoughts. I heard my sister's voice in my mind. "This time, I have to get the better husband before she does." Then she eagerly pulled toward herself the gentle husband I had married in my past life, leaving me with the abusive man who had beaten her. I laughed. Did she really think the man I'd married before was a good person? Once again, I found myself on the day of husband selection. Seated across from us at the dining table were two men of similar age. One was Logan Williams, the eldest son of the Williams family, cold and distant by nature. The other was Ethan Williams, the younger son. Though technically illegitimate, he had a mild temperament and appeared gentle. "This time, I have to get the better husband first," my sister's voice echoed in my ears. I looked at her, but she hadn't spoken. She was simply staring intently at Ethan. "Just wait. I'm going to take you away this time," her voice came again. That's when I realized I hadn't just been reborn, but I could hear people's thoughts. And judging by what my sister had just said, she had also been reborn. Otherwise, there would be no way she could be thinking like that. Sure enough, the next second, she walked over and sat down next to Ethan, looking at him shyly. "Hi, my name is Sophia Evans. I like you," she said with affectation. At that moment, my father suddenly spoke. "Susan, since your sister has chosen Ethan Williams, then you will marry Logan Williams." As soon as he said this, my sister's eyes filled with satisfaction. In her mind, she mocked, "This time, you can take the beatings for me." In my past life, Sophia had married Logan. Logan was a successful businessman, always busy with work, and known for being emotionally distant. My sister had tried countless times to get close to him, but each time she was beaten and kicked out of his room. Eventually, because she never had a child, Mrs. Williams declared her infertile and kicked her out of the family. Meanwhile, I had married Ethan. Even though he had little power in the Williams family, he still provided me with food and comfort. He took me shopping, out to dinner, and spoiled me endlessly. Everyone in the Williams household knew how much he adored me. Later, when Logan suddenly died from poisoning, Ethan inherited the Williams family business, and my status in the house rose overnight. My sister, consumed by jealousy, deliberately drove her car into me while I was shopping, killing us both. "That's fine, Dad," I replied with a smile. "Actually, I like Logan too." Then I calmly walked over and sat beside Logan Williams. I have to admit this man had an incredibly strong presence. The moment I sat down, I felt a cold aura envelope me, making me hesitate to speak. No wonder my sister had suffered so terribly in her past life. I tried to listen to his thoughts, but I heard nothing. However, when Ethan turned to look at Sophia with a smile, I suddenly heard his voice in my mind. "What a pretty little doll." A chill ran down my spine. By instinct, I grabbed Logan's hand. Despite his cold personality, his hands were surprisingly warm. Feeling my touch, he turned to look at me. I quickly let go, and only then did he remain silent. Although Logan seemed intimidating, I still felt that staying with him was much better than being with Ethan, that venomous snake. This time, I was determined to change my tragic fate. I would make my own money, become independent, and not rely on anyone. Our wedding was held together. In my past life, we had also gotten married on the same day. Back then, Logan hadn't even shown up for the ceremony, while Ethan had arrived early in the morning, making everyone say he was the more attentive husband. And exactly as expected, History repeated itself. Ethan, dressed in a white suit, rushed over and carried Sophia away. When they passed by me, she shot me a smug look. "Susan, where is Logan? Didn't he come to pick you up?" she mocked. I simply smiled. "Don't worry about me, Sophia. Just take care of yourself." Her face darkened at my words, clearly choked. "Go ahead and laugh now. We'll see if you're still laughing when you're the one taking the beatings." After saying this in her mind, Ethan Williams took Sophia downstairs with him. But it was still too early to say who would have the last laugh. Just like in my past life, Logan Williams didn't attend the wedding, leaving both my sister and me to endure endless gossip and judgmental looks. Sophia was even more delighted, unable to contain her excitement as she clung to Ethan and blurted out, "I love you, Ethan." Then he kissed her. After the kiss, she turned to stare at me, her lips still wet with saliva. I knew she was expecting to see me humiliated, but I wasn't stupid. Unlike my past self, who had stormed out angrily, giving everyone and the Williams family the perfect scandal to gossip about, I wouldn't make the same mistake. I remembered how in my last life, everyone had criticized Sophia for being immature and unsuitable to be the eldest daughter-in-law of the Williams family. As a result, after the wedding, Mrs. Williams never showed her any kindness, making her life in the Williams house miserable. With a balanced smile, I picked up the microphone and addressed the guests below the stage. "Logan had an important business deal to negotiate today, so I'll make the rounds in his place for the wedding toast. I hope everyone doesn't mind." The moment I said this, the murmuring among the guests ceased. Even Mrs. Williams, sitting at the head table, gave me a look of new appreciation. The Williams family was a prestigious house, highly concerned with maintaining its reputation. At times like these, a daughter-in-law needed to show grace and composure. Sophia also noticed Mrs. Williams' reaction, and her eyes flashed with irritation. "Disgusting," she sneered in her thoughts. "Just wait. When it's time for the tea ceremony, I'll make sure you embarrass yourself." Honestly, I found this ability to hear others' thoughts incredibly useful. It was like having a cheat code for life. Everything became much easier. When the tea ceremony began, I calmly lifted my dress and walked toward Mrs. Williams. Sophia kept her eyes fixed on me, mentally counting 1, 2, 3. At the last second, I swerved just in time to avoid whatever she had planned. Instead, she lost her balance and fell hard on the floor, spilling tea all over herself. "Oh no! Are you okay?" Ethan hastily reached out to help her up, but in his mind I heard him scoff. "What an idiot!" The entire room turned to look in our direction. Mrs. Williams's face darkened with displeasure. "So careless. Do you even look like a proper daughter-in-law?" "I'm sorry, Mother. It wasn't on purpose," Sophia stammered, trying to cover her embarrassment. But the reluctance in her eyes was obvious. If I were her, I would have just accepted the loss and focused on living quietly. But she wasn't willing to leave me in peace, so I certainly wouldn't go easy on her. With Sophia making a fool of herself, the wedding ended in an awkward rush. From beginning to end, Mrs. Williams never gave her a kind look. But when she turned to me, there was only approval in her gaze. She even took my hand and said warmly, "Susan, tonight I'll make sure Logan comes home to keep you company. He should make it up to you." And sure enough, that night Logan really did return. The moment he walked through the door, he loosened his tie, his face full of exhaustion. I quickly stepped forward to take his coat. "Logan, you must be tired today," I said gently. He just looked at me and said nothing. In my past life, the servants had gossiped about how on our wedding night, Logan never came home. My sister had waited alone in the bridal chamber, becoming the laughingstock of the entire house. When she went to Mrs. Williams to complain, she was reprimanded instead, saying that she lacked the ability to win a man's heart. While Logan was in the shower, I prepared his bed, made some tea, and arranged the couch for me to sleep on. When he came out and saw the scene, a flash of surprise passed through his eyes. I quickly explained, "You sleep on the bed, I'll take the couch." He narrowed his eyes slightly, studying me. "Susan, are you trying to play hard to get?" Dressed only in a robe, his chest was slightly exposed, water droplets still clinging to his skin. I have to admit, his physique was incredible. I quickly looked away. We don't have real feelings for each other. Sharing a bed would be uncomfortable for both of us. If possible, I'd like to propose a partnership. Logan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? After all, our marriage is just a business arrangement. Many couples in our situation live separate lives and only pretend for appearances. I married you simply to secure a stable and comfortable life. I don't expect love. Hearing my words, he suddenly smiled. You're smart. That works for me too. I can agree to that. I was just an ordinary person. I didn't have the skills or confidence to control a man's heart. In the Williams family, Logan's attitude toward me would largely depend on how Mrs. Williams saw me. I had no desire to end up like Sophia in our past life, targeted and isolated by everyone. That wouldn't bring me any benefits. Plus, in my past life, Logan had been physically abusive to Sophia. I had no intention of provoking him and ending up in the same situation. Peaceful coexistence was the best option. This time, my only goal was to make money, start my own business, and rise to success on my own merits. To keep up appearances, I had Logan post a picture of us holding hands on social media, with the caption, "Happy Newlyweds." That way, everyone would believe our marriage was fine. While scrolling through his profile, I noticed how empty it was. Besides this new post, there was nothing else. Someone like him must have a monotonous life. That night, Logan really did take the bed while I slept on the couch. He had no concept of chivalry whatsoever, but I should be grateful. At least he didn't force me into anything. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of Logan exercising. He was doing push-ups while listening to music. I had heard that emotionally cold men were usually physically frail, but his six-pack abs and toned calf muscles were proof of his incredible strength, far superior to Ethan's physique. "Stop staring. I'm not interested in you," Logan suddenly said, rising from the floor. He put on his shirt and added, "Get ready. We're going to have breakfast." I knew what he was really saying. He wanted people to see us together to make it appear we were in love. Honestly, he seemed reasonable. I still couldn't understand why he had abused Sophia in our past life. After getting dressed, I left the house with Logan. The moment we stepped out, I saw Sophia and Ethan walking in our direction, holding hands. Sophia was wearing a strapless dress, her collarbone and shoulders covered with hickeys, which she deliberately displayed as she leaned in closer. Her face radiated pride as she looked me up and down. She's completely covered up. She must have been beaten last night and is trying to hide the bruises. Her inner voice echoed in my mind, followed by a smug smile. "Susan, how was your wedding night?" she asked, her voice full of mockery. Today I was wearing an elegant long-sleeved cheaphouse-style dress. Sophia must have forgotten that Mrs. Williams despised revealing clothes and excessive makeup, but I wasn't going to remind her. I simply smiled. "Sophia, based on seniority in the Williams family, you should be calling me sister-in-law, not sister." Her face darkened. She gritted her teeth, reluctant to accept. "Even Logan never calls you that." "What right do you have to demand this from me?" Then she turned to Logan. "Logan, say something." I could feel the air around Logan growing colder. In his mind, Ethan cursed. "Damn idiot, just wait until tonight. I'll teach you a lesson." He pulled Sophia's hand, silently signaling for her to stop talking. But she was completely oblivious to the danger she had just put herself in. "Tell me, Ethan," Logan said calmly. "What is the first rule of the Williams family?" Ethan instantly lowered his head. "I'm sorry, Logan. I'll handle this immediately." The next second, slap, Ethan delivered a hard slap to Sophia's face. "Show proper respect. Greet your brother-in-law and sister-in-law appropriately," he ordered. Sophia's face was red from the slap. She was absolutely furious, but she knew that Logan was not someone she could challenge. Reluctantly, she muttered through gritted teeth, "Good morning, brother-in-law. Good morning, sister-in-law." As soon as she said this, Ethan dragged her away. I remembered that the first rule of the Williams family was that no one was allowed to disrespect the heir or his wife. Addressing them improperly resulted in 30 lashes, and Logan was the legitimate heir of the Williams family. I remembered that in my past life, to survive, I had memorized all the rules of the Williams family. Back then, after Sophia married Logan, she constantly bullied me. But because I knew this rule, I never dared to show disrespect to her. I had assumed Sophia also knew the family rules, but clearly she hadn't memorized them. That's why she thought she could still bully me in this life. When we arrived at the dining hall, Sophia had already received her punishment. Her face was pale, and she kept her head down, not daring to sit down at the moment. Under the table, I glimpsed Ethan repeatedly stabbing her hand with a needle. "Useless woman, it's all your fault that I had to endure this humiliation," he cursed in his mind, pressing harder each time. In my past life, it wasn't long after I married him that he began abusing me. He never allowed me to talk about it, and I had no way to escape. I suffered immensely because of him. That's why in this life, I would rather stay with Logan than end up with Ethan again. "Sophia, this time you chose your own husband. Don't blame me." Mrs. Williams arrived, and we all stood up to greet her. She leaned on her cane and was about to let us sit when her gaze froze on Sophia. Sophia hadn't changed her dress. She was still wearing that strapless gown. Sensing Mrs. Williams' disapproval, she immediately forced a smile, pretending to be embarrassed. "Mother, it was all Ethan's fault. He said he liked how I looked carrying his child." The moment those words left her mouth, Mrs. Williams's face darkened with fury. She raised her cane and struck Sophia on the back. "Shameless! What you two do as a couple is your business, but you must not speak of such things in public, and never dress so indecently again. You're bringing shame to the family." In my past life, even a maid had been fired just for wearing shorts. That's why I had always been careful. I only managed to survive in the Williams house because I lived cautiously. But Sophia always assumed my good life was because I had married the right man. She got it completely wrong. Why did she think a good life had to depend on someone else? "I'm sorry, Mother. I didn't know," Sophia whimpered, sweat beading on her forehead from the pain. Ethan quickly intervened, pretending to take responsibility. "Mother, it's my fault." I forgot to remind her. Though he sounded apologetic, I could hear his internal thoughts. "Serves you right. Seeing you get beaten is the best entertainment." Disgusting. What a psychopath. Since she was a newlywed daughter-in-law, Mrs. Williams didn't reprimand her further. She took her seat and instructed us all to eat. Logan remained silent the entire time, but as we ate, he casually placed some food on my plate. I could feel Sophia's fervent gaze on me, as if she wanted to tear me to pieces. Smiling even more brightly, I said, "Thank you, dear." Mrs. Williams looked pleased as she turned to me. "Susan, after lunch, you should go to the company with Logan and start learning. As the eldest daughter-in-law of the Williams family, you need to understand the business." I had expected this. In my past life, she had said the same thing to Sophia at the dining table. But Sophia had responded, "I don't want to learn. I can just depend on Logan for the rest of my life." She had voluntarily pushed away a golden opportunity. Then when she was eventually kicked out of the Williams family, she had nothing. "Of course, Mother," I responded obediently. Logan took me to the company. Throughout the journey, I tried to listen to his thoughts, but I heard nothing. Well, that made sense. A man like him wouldn't be influenced by emotions. He had nothing to worry about. When we arrived, Logan brought me to his office. "Wait here," he said tersely before leaving. Through the glass door, I saw him heading toward the conference room in a hurry. Curious, I followed. Inside, he was negotiating with a British businessman about selling a formula he had developed. Fortunately, before coming here, I had already done my research. This deal was critical for the Williams family. I heard the British man's thoughts loud and clear. "This formula is only worth a few $100s. This time I'm going to make sure I rip off the Williams family." I looked at him in surprise. His expression was calm and composed, revealing nothing. No one would suspect the machinations happening in his mind. He confidently quoted a price of $3 million. Logan hesitated, not responding immediately. Sensing an opportunity, the man pressed even more. "Mr. Williams, I assure you, this product will bring you far more value than $3 million. Just when Logan was about to agree, I pushed the door open and walked in. "Hello," I greeted in English. Then I picked up the bottle of skincare serum he had developed and examined it closely. "I'm a woman. I understand skincare products better than most. Your formula contains only brightening ingredients. It has no anti-aging or wrinkle-reducing properties, and as an engineer, you must know that superficial brightening effects are negligible at best. So tell me, why exactly is this formula worth $3 million? The British man was stunned. Logan leaned back, watching me with interest, not interrupting. I took this as a silent invitation to continue. However, I added, since this is a foreign product and you've done quite a bit of promotion on social media, many people are already familiar with and trust your brand. So I'll offer this value. I held up a single finger. 1 million, I said. The man looked shocked. Jack, 1 million is already quite generous. Think about it, Logan said, his gaze sharp. No, I interrupted. I'll give you 10,000 for a formula that's barely worth a few hundred. 10,000 is my final offer. The room fell silent. The British man stood up abruptly, clearly angry. In broken Mandarin, he demanded, Miss, who are you to name such a price? How am I supposed to do business like this? Fine, I won't sell. It's not like you need it anyway. With that, he turned to leave. Jack, Logan's voice was calm but authoritative. I'll give you 1 million. Sign the contract now, and I expect you to apologize to my wife. Jack froze mid-step, his eyes lighting up with excitement as he immediately turned around. I'm sorry, Mrs. Williams. I didn't realize you were Mr. Williams' wife. After that, Logan took Jack to sign the contract. When it was all over, I still couldn't understand. That formula was only worth a few $100s. Why did you pay him $1 million? Logan took a sip of coffee and spoke in a measured tone. You have good business instinct, but you still don't fully understand the market. Jack's formula itself isn't worth anything. I knew that from the beginning. What I wanted was the brand he built. Although it's not yet well known, he's already established a strong reputation among young women. With just a bit more promotion, I can easily recoup that $1 million. Suddenly it all made sense. So that's why Jack was so confident. He knew his brand had value. Coming here was definitely the right choice. I was learning things I would never have learned in my past life, but I was still curious. How did you know the formula was only worth a few hundred? Logan fixed his sharp gaze on me. I forced an awkward smile. I guessed. He didn't question me further, but I took this opportunity to make a request. I want to manage one of your subsidiary companies. In my past life, Ethan had no status in the Williams family and couldn't give me anything. I always wanted to start my own business, be my own boss. That way, I wouldn't have to depend on anyone. Once I made enough money, I could leave Logan. Logan studied me for a moment before smiling mischievously. You're quite ambitious. You're not planning to take the company, make a fortune, and then disappear, are you? His penetrating gaze made me feel exposed, as if he could see right through me. Damn, how was he better at reading people than I was? For the first time, I felt inferior. I had a literal superpower, but he still outsmarted me. This must be what real talent looked like. Of course not, I said with a smile. I just want to find something to do. Logan took a sip of his coffee and nodded. All right, but you need to learn from me first before I let you take charge. For the next few days, I followed Logan to the company and learned a lot, not just about business, but also about how to navigate relationships and social situations. Surprisingly, one day he took the initiative to invite me to dinner. And not just anywhere. It was the most luxurious Western restaurant in the city. I didn't expect to find Sophia and Ethan there. Sophia was cutting his steak, but the moment she saw us enter, she immediately dropped the knife and fork, looking startled. Susan, you're here too. She quickly realized her mistake and corrected herself. I mean, brother-in-law, sister-in-law. You're here for dinner too. The next second, I heard her internal thoughts. What the hell? Of all times, why did I have to run into her now? I can't lose face. Yes, I said with a smile. Logan and I came to have dinner together. As I spoke, I took the initiative to intertwine my arm with Logan's. He didn't resist. Ethan quickly stepped forward and greeted us. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law. Logan didn't acknowledge them. Instead, he pulled me toward a table and seated us. I caught the furious look in Sophia's eyes as she watched us. She was probably wondering why Logan hadn't beaten me yet. Why had he even taken me out to dinner? When I went to the restroom, Sophia was waiting for me outside, her expression murderous, exactly like the look she had when she drove into me in my past life. You must be getting beaten behind closed doors, she sneered. Stop pretending. Just looking at you makes me sick. Hearing her words, I laughed softly. Then my eyes landed on the needle marks on her arm. Oh my God, Sophia. I said with feigned concern. What happened to your arm? So many needle marks. Her eyes flashed with panic as she quickly covered her arm, glaring at me. It's none of your business. It's just something fun between Ethan and me. Then she smiled maliciously, leaning in. Not that you would understand. Logan probably hasn't even touched you, has he? Unlike Ethan, he wants me all night long. I'm exhausted. She was clearly miserable, but still trying to act superior. I was curious how long she could maintain that facade. That's wonderful, I said with a bright smile. I wish you two a lifetime of happiness. I turned to leave, but she suddenly grabbed a handful of my hair and pulled hard. Are you mocking me? She growled. I frowned. She was just as insane as she had been in my past life. I struggled to free myself, but before I could, Logan appeared out of nowhere. Without hesitation, he kicked her away. Disrespecting your sister-in-law, he said coldly, towering over her. Do you know what the punishment is for that? I remembered that the punishment was to be locked in the underground cell. I had been sent there once before because of Sophia. That place was filled with countless rats, cockroaches, and snakes. She knew exactly what fate awaited her. Her face turned deathly pale. Brother-in-law, I didn't mean to. Please don't do this. But Logan was never soft-hearted. Once he made a decision, he never changed his mind. He ordered Ethan to take her away. I heard Ethan curse in his thoughts. I hope she dies in there. Less trouble for me. Logan took me back to our room and checked my head. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, pushing his hand away. She just pulled my hair a little. I straightened my clothes and fixed my hair before looking at him. But why did you suddenly come to the restroom? His dark eyes met mine. You were gone for a while. I was about to ask why you two were fighting again. I hesitated. I couldn't exactly tell him that Sophia had been reborn and was deliberately attacking me. So I simply said, she told me that she and Ethan are intimate every night and that they're very happy. Unlike you, who doesn't even touch me. That's why we fought. Hearing my words, Logan's eyes darkened slightly. So, you're insinuating something? I immediately realized he had misunderstood me. Waving my hands in panic, I quickly clarified. No, that's not what I meant. I was just explaining why we fought. Logan stared at me intently. Susan, have you ever thought about doing that with me? Of course not, I blurted without hesitation. I told you, I just want to rely on you for a stable life. That's it. Just that? He pressed. I nodded firmly. He didn't say anything more. Instead, he suddenly slammed the door behind him and left. I had no idea which part of my words had upset him, nor did I care. I just wanted to focus on my own plans. The next day, Logan didn't take me to the company. Instead, he sent me to the subsidiary office to manage it on my own. I threw myself into running the company, determined to make $10 million before I moved on. Every day I pursued projects, negotiated deals, and brought in significant profits. Mrs. Williams even allowed me to take my share of the earnings directly. Just when I was delighting in my financial success, Sophia was finally released from the underground cell. That day, I had just finished work and returned home when I saw her. She had lost a lot of weight, but was still carefully dressed, her makeup impeccable, her clothes elegant. She clung to Ethan as they walked toward me, step by step. Sister-in-law, she said sweetly, I've already asked Mother's permission to learn the company business with you. I want to help lighten your workload. But in her mind, I heard, very soon, I'll make sure you and Logan die together. A sudden realization hit me. Logan's death in my past life had been sudden and unexplained. So it was Ethan. He was the one who caused it. And now he not only wanted to kill Logan, but he wanted to kill me too. I controlled my emotions and smiled at Sophia. Great, you can start tomorrow. I deliberately agreed because I wanted to know exactly what they were planning. Sure enough, the next moment I heard her internal thoughts. What an idiot. Just wait. I'll kill you both soon and live freely. So she had spent days in the underground cell, but was still lucid. Too bad she didn't know I could hear her thoughts. There was no way she could kill me. Logan had died from poisoning in my past life. Now I remembered the time I had seen a cabinet full of colorful vials in Ethan's basement. Back then, he frequently used them to experiment on me. Sometimes they made me pass out. Other times, they put my body into overdrive. Thinking about it now, those were probably his poison samples. I took Sophia to the company and had her start as an intern. She had learned to hide her emotions now, agreeing to everything I said without hesitation. I knew exactly why. She was meticulously planning a murder. Ethan wanted Logan and me dead, but Sophia, she wanted Ethan dead too. This was something I could use to my advantage. It wasn't long before I put my plan into action. Behind Logan's back, I went to meet Ethan. I knew him well. He liked obedient women. That's how I survived alongside him for so long in my past life. So this time, I deliberately dressed provocatively and looked at him with faint admiration. "Ethan, I like you." His interest was immediately piqued. "Sister-in-law, aren't you afraid that my brother will kill you?" I bit my lip, pretending to be shy. "I've always wanted to be with you." Then I lowered my voice and added, "And I have something important to tell you." He leaned in, intrigued. "Sophia wants to poison you," I whispered. "Yesterday at the company, I heard her talking to a man about it." Ethan's face instantly darkened, fury burning in his eyes. "Are you serious?" "Of course," I nodded. "She said you always beat her, so she's going to kill you. She wants to rise to power alone." Because of the memories from my past life, I knew exactly how to manipulate him. Hearing my words, Ethan believed me completely. His darkest secrets, his violent nature, his cruelty, were known only to Sophia and himself. No one else could know about this. "Bitch!" he spat. "I'll make her pay." Then he turned to me with a malicious smile. "Sister-in-law, just wait. Once I get rid of Logan and her, you'll be my wife." After saying this, Ethan left. He really thinks I'm that stupid? There was no way I would follow him. Without wasting time, I went straight to Logan. His life didn't directly affect me, but in this life, he had helped me. He had given me opportunities to make money and had even taken time to share business strategies with me. When I entered his office and told him everything, he seemed surprised. "Do you have any proof that Ethan wants to kill me?" I took out a voice recorder and played our conversation. The first part was me deliberately seducing Ethan to gain his trust. Even I cringed at how flirtatious I sounded, so I quickly explained. I was just pretending to gain his trust. Logan didn't respond, but his face darkened slightly. Sensing the change in his mood, I wisely shut my mouth. The next second, he suddenly pulled me into his arms. The scent of pine surrounded me, and I could hear his heart beating steadily against my ear. I froze, completely caught off guard. He looked down at me, his gaze intense. "Susan, I advise you never to have thoughts of betraying me. As long as you're my wife, you must remain loyal to me." This idiot. How did he twist the situation to this? "Forget that for now," I said, changing the conversation. "The important thing is that your brother is planning to kill you. What do you want to do about it?" Logan's expression remained indifferent. "Let's see if he actually has the capability to kill me. If he fails, then he's the one who dies." It was as if he didn't take Ethan's schemes seriously. That night, instead of being cautious, he even took me to a banquet, saying it would help with the subsidiary company's development and allow me to meet potential clients. As soon as we entered, I could feel the weight of countless gazes. Most of them weren't friendly. Men are all the same. If I had known, I wouldn't have brought her. I suddenly heard Logan's inner voice and turned to look at him in shock. His face was completely expressionless. Did he just think that? What did he mean by that? Sensing my gaze, he looked at me. "What's wrong?" I quickly shook my head. "Nothing." But then I heard another thought from him. "She's so clueless." I was stunned. The cold and arrogant CEO in my memory was thinking this? I forced myself to stay calm and kept my emotions in check. After the banquet, Logan took me home. Sophia and Ethan were waiting for us in the living room. Sophia smiled warmly and invited us to dinner. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring at my chest. Then, with a relaxed smile, he said, "Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, Sophia and I bought some very good ingredients today. Come eat with us." Damn, could he be any more obvious? I genuinely couldn't understand how Logan had fallen for such a pathetic trap in my past life. The dining table was full of delicious dishes, but I didn't dare take a single bite. Under the table, I reached for Logan's hand and squeezed it as a warning. But the next second, before I could react, he had already picked up his chopsticks and taken a bite. "It tastes good," he said casually. "Let's all eat together." Sophia and Ethan exchanged a quick look, their eyes glowing with pleasure. My panic increased. I dug my nails into Logan's hand, trying to make him stop, but he didn't even flinch. I literally told him they were trying to kill him. Why is he still eating? Just as that thought crossed my mind, Logan and Sophia collapsed onto the table. Mrs. Williams stormed in at that moment, her face livid. "Guards, take these two filthy traitors to the underground cell. They must never come out again." I barely had time to process what was happening before Logan turned his head in my direction, his lips curving into a slight smile. "Susan, I'm not as foolish as you think," he said. "I already told my mother to install security cameras throughout the house. The moment Ethan put poison in the drinks, we switched them. Instead of poison, they're the ones who drank sedatives." Then his voice lowered slightly. "But you seemed really scared for me just now. You're not falling in love with me, are you?" For some reason, my heart started racing at his words. "I'm not," I said quickly. "I was just afraid that if you died, I wouldn't have anyone to rely on." He flashed a bright smile. "Is that so?" With Sophia and Ethan locked in the underground cell, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The two people I feared most were now out of the picture. I had also earned enough money. Now the only thing left was to talk about divorce with Logan. But I was waiting for an opportunity, and Logan was incredibly busy, barely coming home. I could only wait for the right moment. That day, I heard from the servants that Ethan and Sophia were repeatedly asking to see me. I decided to visit Sophia first. Her hair was a mess, and she looked exhausted, but her eyes still burned with resentment. "How did you know I was trying to kill you? How did you find out?" The next second, her eyes widened in realization. "I get it. You came back too, didn't you?" I smiled and looked at her. "Sophia, you're only realizing this now?" Her face contorted with fury as she lunged at the bars, gripping them tightly as if she wanted to tear me to pieces. "You bitch! You were hiding so well. You knew Ethan was a psychopath all along, didn't you? You just stood by and watched me jump into the abyss. Susan, you're so cruel." I met her gaze, staring at a face that bore some resemblance to mine. She was my blood sister, but in my past life, she had personally killed me. If I couldn't hear thoughts in this life, I would have died again. You chose Ethan on your own. You also chose Logan on your own. No matter who you choose, you're never satisfied, so you blame me. But have you ever thought that the real problem is you? I said coldly. You want to depend on men. I just want to depend on myself. That's the difference between us. But why do things always work out for you, no matter who you're with? She shouted in frustration. You think my life is easy? I scoffed. I've fought for my survival every step of the way. I earned everything I have, but you never made any effort. You expect others to save you. That's why you deserve this outcome. With that, I turned and left. Behind me, Sophia screamed in anger. Just wait! Next time, I won't lose to you. Next, I went to see Ethan. He was carefully arranging a blanket. Some habits never change. His obsessive-compulsive tendencies were still there. When he saw me, he actually laughed. Susan, you're smart, he said. You're a great actress. You know, I really believed you wanted to be with me. I was fully prepared to kill Sophia and Logan for you. But you gave me quite a surprise. You deserved it, I retorted, glaring at him. His face overlapped with the distorted image of him from my past life, the man who had tortured me. My anger burned even stronger. He took slow, deliberate steps toward me, his gaze traveling up and down my body. If I weren't locked in here, he murmured, I would tie you up and inject you with something that would make you feel pure happiness. I couldn't bear to hear any more. Ethan, you'll rot in hell, I spat before turning and running out. Even after leaving the underground cell, my breathing was still unsteady. I couldn't shake the image of his unhinged expression. But at least in this life, I had finally escaped him. That night, Logan came home drunk. The moment he entered the room, he stumbled forward, bumping into me. We both fell to the floor. You're drunk, I muttered, trying to push him off. I'll make you some tea to sober up. but he didn't move. Instead, he started unbuttoning his shirt, his penetrating eyes locking onto mine with intense possessiveness. I froze. In that instant, I realized he wasn't drunk at all. "Logan, think carefully about what you're doing," I said, my voice firm. "We're just partners. You're not allowed to touch me." He suddenly covered my mouth and whispered in my ear, "No matter what, you're my wife, and I will touch you." I pushed him away. "No, I want a divorce. You can't touch me." The room fell into complete silence. Logan's face darkened. He slowly released me, his expression unreadable. "I knew it," he murmured. "I knew you were planning to leave me." There was something about the way he said it. He sounded defeated. "Susan, you're a heartless woman," he said. "Have you already forgotten me?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" His deep black eyes locked onto mine. "Do you remember Chase?" His words took me back to childhood memories. I was still in elementary school at that time. There was a boy with long hair who always wore a mask. The other kids constantly taunted him, calling him weak and girlish. But I defended him, shielding him from their taunts and taking him to the back of the school. "You can't be so timid," I told him. "You have to learn to protect yourself." He slowly raised his head and took off his mask. "Thank you," he said softly. "I just want to grow my hair long so I can donate it to my aunt. She has cancer." It was the first time I saw his face, and I was stunned. He was incredibly handsome. In that moment, I fell in love with him at first sight. From that day on, I stood by him, protecting him every day. He told me his name was Chase. Later, his aunt passed away, and he moved away. "I've been looking for you all these years," Logan continued, his voice low, "until the day I discovered I could hear your thoughts. I didn't realize you were the person I'd been searching for all along. Because I can only hear your thoughts." He let out a small, bitter laugh. "I never revealed myself because I was waiting for you to come to me first. I wanted to see if you still remembered me." His voice grew even softer. "Then one day I heard your thoughts. You said that once you saved up 10 million, you would leave me." His eyes reddened. "That's why I've been avoiding you these past few days. I didn't want to face the fact that you were planning to leave me." I was completely shocked. I never expected something so coincidental could exist in this world. Logan could also hear people's thoughts. And in that moment, I realized he had been testing me all along. "So that's why you knew I could hear your thoughts," he murmured. "You deliberately thought those things to confirm, didn't you?" I lowered my gaze. "I'm sorry. I never meant to use you. I was just afraid of being abandoned again. That's why I thought I should save enough money and leave on my own terms." "Do you still want to leave me now?" he asked. I shook my head. Before, I wanted to leave because I thought he didn't love me. I believed that staying by his side would never bring me happiness, so it was better to rely on myself. But now I knew he was Chase. He had been waiting for me all along, so I would stay. I suddenly understood why, in my past life, he had rejected Sophia so strongly. He knew she wasn't me. That's why he never touched her. As that thought settled, I felt the warmth of his lips gently pressing against my cheek. "Stay with me forever, Susan," he whispered. My eyes filled with tears. "Yes," I choked. "Forever." Thank God I was given this second chance in life. Thank God I didn't lose the person I was meant to love.